Welcome back to Horrifically Well Read, Bled, and Said. Today we are so excited to talk to the author of one of our favorite books of the year so far, and the book is Dig, and the author is J.H. Markert. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
We are so jazzed to have you. I think that I didn't know you before this, but I immediately just started messaging you being like, "Okay, this book was insanely wonderful." And then
It was great because it was a book that as she was reading it, she's, like,
yes,
just talking about how much she loves, and then I'm reading it, and she's just looking at me like, "Where you at? What'd you get to?" And I'm like, look up, and I'm like, "This must be what you were waiting for," and she's like, "Yes, keep going." So,
yes, yes, yes.
Isn't that the best when you
yeah,
read
It
when
is
you're then you could, you have you got there yet? Have you got there yet? What's happening?
well, you just I think layered and layered and layered. And this was the first kind of book that I felt if we were to throw out I don't know, every horror trope we could think of. You damn near checked every box within this book, and really well too. Like not in a way that you threw it all in there, and like not like throwing spaghetti at the wall, but I mean everything just worked together. From mythical to historical, but to just absolute. What in the hell is going on? To that is so creepy, and I'm scared. And
yes.
you touch on all of it. So
So, yes,
Well, I'm so unfocused that I I'll write a book and only after, and usually it takes someone reading it and telling me of the tropes or whatever or the themes, like, "Oh, yeah, I guess I did do that."
that's hilarious.
I love that. So, our listeners, wanna know, what is Dig about? What are they getting into when they open this book?
Well, hopefully, number 1 is it's some good scary fun, I would hope, that allows the, imagination to fly a little bit. I will say that the my more horror-driven novels, I enjoy writing them, but they are tougher for me as opposed to, like, Spider to the Fly and Sleep Tight, where it's more a thriller suspense. I can write those faster. They don't cause my brain as much, discomfort. But with Dig, I will say I had to cut a lot for it to make sense. It's one of those ones that I just had to write that first draft and let my mind go everywhere, and then have my agent and editor hit me over the head with notes, um, and for me to listen to them. But the rewrite is really where that gave this book some focus.
Well, you said right before we started recording, and I was like, "Oh, man, I need to get this on." You told me there was a sort of like a image or this, like, first, like, thing that kind of the whole book originally came from, right?
Yeah, as authors, we're often asked, it's probably the most popular question, where do your ideas come from? And the answer is different for every book. It's just a matter of keeping your mind open and observing and living. And Dig came about. I was just flipping through a magazine and I saw a dinosaur fossil, a dig, and I thought, huh. What if there's I always wanted to do an island book.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let's make this my island book. I want to make up my own island. And what if something or someone was buried into the ground and they dug him up and it was what they expected. And then I got the idea of what if everyone is just compulsed to dig and everyone on the island is digging, and my whole goal with it was to just create a sense of dread throughout.
Well, you were very successful. And I can think, I think of just like in the history of both like movies and books, a few other that have had like a situation where like it is this very like mysterious, like all of these people or someone is called to do something and don't know why. It's like
Mhm.
from the happiest of like Field of Dreams, Build It and They
Yes.
Will Come,
Right.
Close Encounters. And then I think of like Chuck Wendig's Wanderers, where it's like,
Mhm.
what is going on? Why is this happening? And I think like you take it to another extreme because not only do they have to dig, but they're digging with no regards to their own health,
Uh-huh.
Yes.
welfare, and all these things, which just turns it into this really like it's both like suspenseful and mysterious of why is this happening and also horrific, like what could compel someone to the point
Mhm.
where they don't care what's happening to their body, right?
Right.
And, everybody might be digging for a different reason too.
Yeah,
I
you'd have
felt
no
that
idea
way.
at
I
the beginning. Yeah.
definitely felt that way because it just seemed like there wasn't at the beginning of the book, there wasn't any clear reason why. But you don't
Mhm.
really know. It was almost like a mania and a panic,
Right.
different people for different reasons. And
It
Y
seems to be tied to this almost like you know that there's something going on that's kinda tying it to this almost random acts of violence at the same time too, right?
Yeah, and then you get a hint of something, and you just wanna keep digging until you get to the root of a thing.
yeah, well, I'm surprised to hear that that was your inspiration, not because it's I mean,
Makes sense,
I
yeah.
know where it does fit, but then I don't want the listeners to think this is a dinosaur book in any way. This is
No, no,
it
no.
goes
Right.
I mean, you'll understand where
That image.
that
Yeah,
then
it's an image gave me the idea for a book, but the image ends up yeah, there's no dinosaurs in the book.
oh, and it
Yeah.
wait, that image of what you're saying for
You'll
the
wish it
scene
was a
yeah,
dinosaur.
Yes,
yeah, right. I
yes.
mean, when Adam first of all, you're a huge dinosaur
I
lover,
am, yes.
and then when you got to that scene, I mean, I think that was one that just
Yeah, it's one of those, like, this is a book that crescendos, right? Like, it
Mhm.
just slowly comes together, and then once things start happening, it builds to this, like, just awesome thing, and I was kinda talking in I know horror authors may love, may hate this, and I know that you have seen things where it's comparing you, to Stephen King, and everyone talks about Stephen King, and all that kind of stuff with horror, but I have to say this book, when I think about prime Stephen King and what makes prime Stephen King, it's this sort of like specific location, this big cast of characters. It's the way that they interconnect in the way that you like or like, identify with all of them. And then it's this really awesome threat that they have to face. And like to me, when I read Dig, I was like, I don't think I've read something that does these things as well as early prime Stephen King, and
Well,
I was
thank
just
you.
like I was mesmerized by this book.
well, I just wanna jump
Thank
in
you.
here real quick because I've read, like, a few of the Stephen King, but more of the, like, 11/22/63, like,
Mhm.
not the type that he's referencing, and so when I was just obsessed and like, "This is insanely good," he was like, "Well, it's like an original Stephen King of
This is why you read horror.
this
This is
is
why
why
Right,
people loved
yeah,
it," and so,
it's why people that maybe would not normally read horror, how you can get them into the genre. I
right.
would give them a book like Dig.
But I think it's also why this generation of horror authors right now are all writing and doing what we're doing and having some success because of early Stephen King. And when you hear so and so's the next Stephen King, or he's or she's the next Stephen King, I think we all are. So he carved out a huge block, and I think that block now is divided between a mantle of dozens and dozens of writers.
Yeah,
If people think I'm included in that, that's amazing to me, and honored and all that stuff because Stephen King was certainly a huge inspiration in my reading and writing early on. But I'd like the fact that you brought up the multiple characters because I sometimes and, authors aren't supposed to read reviews, yada, 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 but how can you not sometimes? And honestly, when I have a book come out and it's on NetGalley and I wanna see how it's being received early on, I'll never respond to one of them, but, just to get kind of the lay of the land, how people are thinking about it, and generally I'll when the book comes out, I don't look anymore, but early on, I like to look at some reviews, and I do get occasionally there's too many characters, and that's just something I can't not do.
yeah,
Even when I try to start small, like, I'm gonna write this book with 1 POV, maybe 2. It always ends up 3 or 4.
yeah,
Just because I like to explore things from so many different angles, and you can open up the story so much more in my mind doing that. Now that being said, I had Spider to the Fly, my book came out in September. I wrote most of that book really quickly and then got snagged around 2/3 of the way through, and in that book, I realized there was a character that wasn't needed, and I took that character completely out, and it took, like, 60 pages out, and that opened up the book so much and it made sense at that point. So I've done it both ways. I've added characters along the way and I've taken point of views away as well. And that's for me, that's one of the hardest parts to starting a book is deciding who's going to be driving the car, whose mind I'm going to be in. And it changes throughout. Like the current book I'm writing now, I just decide I'm 70% of the way through it and I decided I want to add one more point of view, but not very many chapters of them just to tell parts of a certain story, some background. And as far as Dig, I know Nate was the first character I wrote because I wanted him coming back
Yeah.
to, with his father leaving the message, dig, telling him to dig. And he hasn't seen his father in 8 years. And I wanted him to come home having to deal with something his brother, a horrific thing his brother did. Um, and returning to the island like that. But it ends up Amy, I think, ends up being the main character in the book,
Yeah, I think so too.
and that was decided maybe, 150 pages in that I said, "You know what? I need to have her as the main character in this."
Is there a reason, like in those reviews, just as a follow up question, that do you think that's more of a personal preference why people don't like that many characters or they struggle to keep track of
I think it's more of a maybe it's a struggle to keep track, I don't know, and it's hard for me because I don't struggle keeping track
either?
because they're mine,
Me, I
and I
find it to be enriching, but that's what I'm wondering if it's just like a
right,
personal taste.
Yeah, I think this goes again to, like I've said it a few times, where I think that sometimes people interact with the novel like it's supposed to act like a movie,
right,
and I just that's not the medium, and I think that, date
mhm,
back to all the greatest novels of all time and, Anna Karenina and War and Peace, it's like the first 5 pages were the character list, you know what I mean? Like,
right, right,
that's how novels work,
yeah,
and especially when you really it's Crow Island, and it's like, you get to know pretty much everyone on this island, like, there's
right,
not that many people that live there, but it's pretty important, everyone kinda plays a part in what's happening, and so you kinda have to get to know everyone for it to really work the way that it needs to, so,
right,
those people that
and
too
a
bad.
good tip for oh, I'm sorry.
No, we just said for anybody who feels like you have too many characters in your writing, we say too bad.
Yeah, yeah, to that, I say, "Sorry, I try."
Well, I was
But
curious.
as far as having you have your points of view, and then you have a big cast of characters like in an island or a small town. As long as you might have one character who might only have 10 lines throughout the book, but if they're doing or saying something memorable, they become a kind of a fixed point in that story. Not every character has to have point of view chapters or a lot of lines in this, but those side characters, I think you just give them something memorable to say or do or some endearing quirk, then people like them.
It's required, I think, because it's anchoring.
Mhm.
So I'm always a person that thinks in pictures and thinks in analogies. And I've been wondering over the time that I've been interviewing authors, just what amount of work it takes to edit. And, there's been from Jonathan Jans to even what you're saying right here of like, you really got to cut, you got to know how to edit, what to do. And since, I haven't written anything yet that I've had to revise, I keep imagining just from the writing process to the editing, something that I do, which is, I'll say, okay, we're going to change our bedroom. I'm going to think about what I'm going to paint, where I'm going to decorate, what I'm going to do this. And Adam's always been tolerant enough to be like, can you move this here? Can we try that there? Let's move it over this. And I'm thinking like that's got to be what an author's doing, just try this here, try that. It needs something. But when I was asking about like the reviews, I feel like that's more stylistic and personal taste because what if I
Right,
like something maximalist? What if you're just like, no, I really like beige or gray or, I
right.
prefer this. And, but even like when you're talking about the side characters, I mean, to me, that's just developing the flavor, even if we would go from something maybe more approachable if everyone here isn't not
Mhm.
decorating or changing out their space or whatnot. But you just say cooking, right? It's like when you keep layering flavors, depending on when you add the garlic at the beginning or the
Right,
end, I feel like that's what these extra characters do. Whereas sometimes I'll cook something for my father and he'll say, you're doing too much. I'm like, but it tastes good. And he's like,
right,
yeah, I just like it simple. And I'm like, but why? It's like 3, 4 more ingredients. And then like, it's good. He's like, I'm just never gonna make it this way for myself. And I'm like, okay. I don't really think it's that much extra work, but for some people that I think that it comes to me, I'm just like, I guess you write for the style of reader that I am, which
mhm,
is really well developed, enjoyable, just thoroughly that you're locked in, right? It's not something that I feel like and who was it? We were talking to Johnny Compton the other day, and he's like, I don't want you to be breezing through my novel. I don't want you to treat it like a Netflix show, you
Right.
know? I didn't feel like I could do that with Dig because there was a lot to learn and a lot to take in, and even though I was voraciously like, "God, I gotta know what's happening here," I didn't feel like I was, "Okay, this is just a fly through book," right? It was
Mhm.
really
And it and if you like the characters, you wanna live with them a little bit.
I
Um,
did. I absolutely
so
did.
that's why sometimes I'll if I'm reading a book and I love it, even though I could technically get through it really quickly, I'll stall and read it, slower and take my time with it just because I don't wanna be done with it. I can't do that with writing the books because you have deadlines, but
Right.
as far as how I approach writing them and editing 'em, when, Dig is my 12th, it'll be my 12th. I'll say they get I mean, every novel's got its, hurdles, and some are easier to write than others, but they're certainly easier to write now than they were 20 years ago for me, just because I know more of what I'm doing, and I've gotten better at self-editing.
Okay.
Especially with, Sarah Henry's been my editor for the last 5 books at Crooked Lane, and I kinda know what she will end up cutting and what not. So, sometimes I won't even put something in there knowing that it's gonna get cut anyways. Or when I do my read through, I'll cut 20% of what I wrote just because I know they're gonna do it anyways. But the way I write is I'm a complete pantser,
Okay.
and I'm kinda slow on the first 50, 60, 70 pages, just because I don't know the characters yet. But once I get a good grasp of who they are and who's what point of views I'm gonna be in, then it's like, it's on. I write quickly, which is why generally I can get a book first draft done in, like, 3 months, 3 to 4 months. My book coming out in October, The Chain House, I wrote it in 2 months. That book just cooked and knock on wood, I'd love to do that again, but I didn't hit any speed bumps in that thing. I can't wait for that one. But generally, I'll get a first draft done, and I'll say, "Okay," think of it like a thread. You're pulling these threads through. I'll grab this character and this character, and on this read through, I'm gonna strengthen their arc all the way through. And then I'll read it again and say, "Okay, I'm gonna read it this time and pull the just on tone and atmosphere and pull those threads through." And then or
Me so
yeah,
much
or maybe
understand.
I'll do another
I
read where
I
I'm
wasn't sure
focused
how
just
that
on
was going.
dialogue or different so I just keep pulling threads through un
Yeah.
until I'm happy with it, and then by the time my editor gets it, a lot of the editing's been done, and I just need her some of the brain power on it as far as the most important stuff, but I try to get it as tight as possible.
It's really fascinating because I'm thinking, like, how do you just crank all this out and then how do you even start to edit? So I love how you give that analogy of the threads where you're looking for this, now you're looking for that. Like that
What's
makes
my favorite part?
yeah.
Hands
Oh,
down.
really?
Oh, yeah. Just because I know my first drafts are gonna be crap. I mean, nobody's first draft, if they just handed it to someone as their first book, would get published. It takes edits, and my favorite edit is that second pass where it's done, and I always say, I don't really get writer's block because I'm okay with writing shit. So instead of getting bogged down and overthinking something, I'll just write through it and knowing that I can fix it on a rewrite. Because in my mind, I can't fix something if it's not there. So once it's there and it has a beginning, a middle, and an ending, my favorite part is digging in on the second draft.
Gets we come back to the same old adage that Gemma Moore told you, Adam, that you can't polish a turd unless you shit it out. So I mean, well, I think Threads is a bit cleaner. Second
Right.
pass editing.
Yeah.
But, nevertheless, there it is, right? Where you're like, you're not afraid to write something. You gotta get it out and then you can
Mhm.
shape it and mold it. And that's encouraging, because I think there's a lot of people that take advice from when they listen to recordings like this and just I really enjoy hearing your excitement for how just get it done. But I love the second pass. Like, you can hear the
Yeah.
passion in that of that's the fun instead of like, oh, now this is work. What do I have to
No, it's
change?
kind of a weight off my shoulders. To me, the first draft is more stressful. And then the second pass, from there, it's gravy, it's fun, and I don't care if if I have to do 5 or 6 read throughs and whatever.
Well, I would love to if you interesting that you said that, Adam, where it's like this is how you get people into horror because I was talking to my friend Nanette tonight and or this afternoon. I said, "Oh, I'm interviewing." an author tonight that I was like, "I'm obsessed with this book," and I was like, "And when it comes out," I was like, "I'm getting it for you," because now she loves, like, thrillers and
Right,
mystery and she's read a few, um, things that verge, but not really, but I think this is just there's so many propulsive, scary moments in here, but not too scary that she's not gonna be able to, like, sleep or
right.
maybe, I don't know, I could sleep, but, I mean, there's the part where, that I made when I was talking to you where it's like, "He's coming, Amy. The horned one is coming," and I was like,
Yes,
"God, what does this mean?"
I know, I'm like, "Does he have to? Like, can he
right.
not?"
Or the horns on boards.
Time you're, commenting, it's like it's the shovel, the honey, the island symbol, and it's
Yes.
all deep within it. So I wanted to go into a little bit of the Tupelo honey, and I think when I was reading that, I was originally excited because Adam and I have gone to South Carolina many times, and one of his favorite places, I think all of us actually, is to
Mhm.
eat at the Tupelo Honey Cafe.
Okay.
I mean, it's just deep Southern food that is great, but you started describing how
I'm like, I never thought I would be so interested in how honey is made."
yes, then we got into the clarity of the
It's
honey and everything. Yes.
fascinating.
Yeah.
So
Except
Well
yeah.
so if we could touch on that a little bit.
and that's where I like being a pantser and not totally knowing everything and exploring and learning as the book develops. You kinda organically let the story take over, and I was halfway through this book before I even thought about honey being a theme. Yeah, because I was just researching swamps, and then I started reading about the Tupelo where the something I came across where it's Florida and Georgia and the swamps and the bee barges and Tupelo honey, so I started reading that. I'm like, "This sounds fascinating." So then I ordered a jar, and I'm like, "This is the best tasting honey I've ever had. It's the most unique stuff." So then I started researching it, and I'm like, "That's it. This is at the core of this story. I want it to be that." And with the
Together.
higher the purity, the higher the violence on the island,
Yes.
which made like, when I went to the Savannah Bee Company, I was in, St. Augustine this, couple yeah, last summer, and I went to the Savannah Bee Company store, and they had a bottle of Tupelo Gold, which is 98% purity, and I'm thinking I sent a picture to my agent, and she goes, "That's horrifying."
Right, because a
Just
lot of
'cause
violence happened for that.
she knew what the purity rate in my book meant, but I enjoyed, and I when you have something like that, I like to describe it and get it to the point where the reader can almost smell and taste it, and the only thing I can compare that to that I've done before would be my 2nd book that came out back in 2015, historical, that takes place in a bourbon distillery, just describing the bourbon making process and the smell of the rick houses and the angel share and all that stuff. That's kind of a similar way I did that book also. But I love Tupelo honey now. I put it on everything.
Yeah, now, question for you, 1, do you drink coffee, and 2, do you put honey in it?
I drink coffee, yes. Typically no honey, although for Christmas, my wife got me honey that specifically goes in coffee.
Okay.
What makes
So
it honey that would specifically go in coffee? What's different about it?
it says so on the jar.
Well, so it started I never thought about sweetening my coffee with that, but my brother does it, and around here, we have a couple of we have an apiary, and you can taste, like, the spring honey and the fall honey, and the fall honey is more of a little bit more of a more brown, like
Mhm.
amber kind of and they're both delicious, and there's just a little bit of a shift in flavor from the spring
Yeah,
honey to the fall, but then my brother was like, or at least there, like, you can get the bee pollen and whatever, but saying, if you eat that, there's a lot of allegedly, I have no clue if that's true or not, but just that it helps with, allergies and just immune system, and, I mean, obviously, like, honey is one of those things that can never expire,
right.
it's always and so it's just like nectar of the gods, right? So, anyway, he's like, "Yeah, I'm putting it in my coffee, and it's actually quite good,
Huh,
I really don't mind it in there, so even if you don't have if you run out of the one with coffee, I think it's still
yeah,
pretty good, but,
and Tupelo doesn't crystallize.
really
No. You can keep it in forever on there and it doesn't crystallize.
Okay, see, now I'm gonna have to give this one a
Mhm.
try, okay? That's
Yeah,
coming up for maybe that's an anniversary present or
yeah,
something.
look it up.
So what all do you put it on? Because I know people do, like, honey on the pizza and pepperoni pizza and stuff like hot honey, but are you serious right
No,
now?
I had it when we were
I
up at Fantastic.
I know, but it's
It
good,
was
but
well,
what
delicious.
tea,
else do you like it on?
I would say tea, oatmeal, bread, um, toast. I don't know, just a little bit of everything. I'm like, "Oh, I wonder what it would taste like with Tupelo." Oh, I will say that last, New Year's, we started making Tupelo honey old fashions.
My
Oh,
gosh.
Those were
My gosh, I don't that's one
we'll
of those
have to,
things where yeah,
tell Christine for the next 40-meter weekend,
absolutely.
yes.
maybe the New Orleans when she can do that for,
That'd be amazing.
yeah, that's awesome.
Love that. Well,
And the cover for Dig, which I love, you got that
Yes.
skull
I
on
do
there.
too.
The
Gorgeous.
one of the original covers that the publisher showed me had lines of honey dripping out of the eye holes, but they ended up taking that off
Man,
because
that'd be an
they
interesting
thought it
look.
was a little much,
Yeah,
little too much going on. I loved it. I thought it was
yeah. That would be interesting, like, extra to
yeah.
have for
But I
certain things.
battled for I wanted the color light blue on the cover.
Uh-huh.
So the blurb by Jonathan Mayberry at the top, they put in Haint blue,
Yes.
Love
which I
that.
wanted because that's the color of the honey house.
I mean, I think that's speaking of the haints and I mean, that's the another area here of just how deep you get into almost like some of the Gullah Geechee.
Right.
And then also, just, the lore that you're bringing in there and the spirits, you have everything with the southern blue bottle trees. I mean, you really, that's what I'm saying, like the historical aspect, you have dug into that so well.
And I'm big on color.
Okay, tell me more.
Like, just growing up in a family of artists, my dad was, one of the most well-known stained glass artists in the country.
That's right. We did read that at the beginning of the book of how amazing that was. Okay, keep
Yeah,
going.
and he just color was a big deal in stained glass windows, and I don't know, there's something about color that I like to describe. So you have the color of the honey, the gold color of the honey. You have the blue bottles and the trees. You have the red roof on the honey house, the haint blue of the honey house. Just I want colors to pop, almost in a fantastical way. But I don't know, that's just one quirk I have when I'm writing. I like to have things colorful. Like in my 5th novel, Midnight at the Tuscany Hotel, it's a hotel and every room in the hotel has a different color door, different color on the paint wheel. Just different thing like that. I just like talking about colors.
Well, it's almost like when you think of, like, I think of the painter Caravaggio and how he
Yes.
always put, like, the 2 fingers put together. It's like that's the signature, and like that's for you. It's like look for the color.
Mhm.
And not to, no spoilers at all, but at, the climax of this book, I think the way that you use color and especially with a certain prop or thing that is being used often
Yes.
towards the end, I think, like, I see that and it's like, it works so well, like, as this sort of, like, motif that it really, like, makes you feel like you're there and can see it. I think something about, like, the description of color really lets your imagination kind of put you in whatever that place is, and I think, like, that adds so much to the
Right.
climax of this book.
So have y'all read my previous JH novels?
See, I've read Sleep Tight and Spider to the Fly.
Okay. So those 2, the more, like, psychological thrillers.
Yes.
My first book, my because I published all my historicals under James,
Right.
and then The Nightmare Man was JH, just to differentiate, horror from the other. But I really wanted to make The Nightmare Man into a series, but the publisher didn't want a series. That doesn't mean there won't be a book 2 at some point, but they have wanted standalones, but I wanted a series. So I wrote Mr. Lullaby, and you find out halfway through that it's the same world.
Yes.
And that's what I did with Dig during that climax and what happens with that is connected to Mr. Lullaby and The Nightmare Man.
Okay, and I thought that there was some explicit mention, like,
Yes.
in the book. Yeah, and I was like, "Man, I have to go back because we have them, so I have to go
Yeah.
back and read them now."
So I haven't done a series, but
It is
I
a
like
world.
connecting worlds.
Yeah.
They didn't say I couldn't do that.
Well, it's interesting, and the thing is, like, Sleep Tight and Spider the Fly, yes, I like, if you're going to put them into a genre, it's gonna be like psychological thriller,
Right.
that kinda thing, but they are the 2 of the scariest psychological thrillers I've ever read.
Thank you.
Sleep
Thank
Tight,
you.
I think that one of the tropes, not to, like, go deeply into another book here, but one of the tropes that scares me the most, and I think about, like, what was the book? Race with the or movie, Race with the Devil, where they, like, see the cult and then they run away, and it's
Yeah.
basically the whole movie is them being chased by this cult, and you never know where they stop, whether the people they're interacting with are part of this cult or not.
Mhm.
And, like, you took that it's that fear, and there's a scene especially between the 2 police officers that
Right.
I think about all the time because it scared the living shit out of me and,
Well,
like,
good.
bothered me so much, and I cannot like, if I see any animal masks on anyone ever again, like, I'm just all I will think about is that book and how I'm like, "Okay," like, you think about Leatherface, like, no, I don't wanna see someone in a lamb mask, like,
Yeah.
that's what that book did to me. So, like, yes, it is psychological thriller, but at the same time, like, you definitely like, it is on the darker and scarier end. And speaking of which, when I'm selling people on any books, I think the MO of the killer in Spider to the Fly is
Yes.
one of the greatest ever because, on one hand, the killer can say he never actually killed anyone, right?
Right, and that's one of my favorite books that I've written. It's only been out for 6 months, but I'm waiting for that to catch up to Sleep Tight and sales. Um,
Sleep
but
Tight got that book of the month,
yeah,
right?
that helped a lot, I'll say that. But I had a with Sleep Tight and Spider, I just had the tone of the movie Seven,
Yes.
and, like, I was like, "That's the tone I want for both of these." So
Yeah, I definitely see that, and especially with Spider to the Fly being so much of the horror is, like, after the fact, kinda
yes.
like how Seven, it was, like, when they discovered the bodies, that's when the horror happened, and it's
Mhm.
very similar with Spider to the Fly, where it's, like, when you're realizing what these victims had gone through, it is
It's horrifying.
terrifying and, I can't it's like worst nightmare. I'm not a spider fan in
I don't mind
general.
spider I don't like
Yeah.
spiders, I'm more of snakes.
Yep, that's me. I can handle a spider just fine, but a snake,
Alright. That's
after I talked to you, I'm like, I'm definitely reading more of your books, and I'm very interested to read the historical ones as
Yes.
well.
let me tell you, you can't get any different than my first book, White Wind Blue,
Yes.
which is getting republished this year
Yes.
for Open Road. It's gonna be The Choir Master of Waverly Hills, so it's gonna have a new title. That book couldn't be any more different than Spider to the Fly. I mean, because my historical are more and I always say my historical are more me, and you don't writers, I guess they hate when people say, "Well, which character are you?" But my historical novels have more of me in them, and I would like to think that none of my horror novels do.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, if how would you like when you are you going to any conventions or anything like that that you'll be having Dig available to buy? And then obviously, like you have your other one coming out later this year. Will you be able to have both out at the same time and promoting sales for those?
Yeah, I went on a 21 city tour for Spider.
Ooh,
So for Dig, I'm not going that many places. I know I'll be in Beaver Creek, Ohio, Barnes& and Noble on March 28th. I'll be in Boston on April 11th. It's actually Ashland, which is, I think, 20 miles west of Boston on April
okay.
11th. That's gonna be with, like, 8 or 9 horror authors.
Nice.
And then so I'm just doing a few signings here and there for Dig. And I think maybe for the Chain House in the October, I might do a few more, but not totally sure on that yet.
And Chain House, is that, horror thriller? Like, what are we
That that's gonna be more along the lines of Spider
okay,
and Sleep Tight.
gotcha. Awesome. You had mentioned earlier that what was it? I don't recall now. The thriller or the horror is sort of more difficult to get into, like, kind of you said, like, psychologically kind of
Horror, he
affects you a
said.
I
different
write
way.
I write his psychological thrillers faster just because, a lot of times on those, there's a murders, and you gotta figure out who did it, how it happened, whatever, or maybe you know who did it, but it's like a race to the end.
Right.
Each chapter propels into the next, which my horror novels do, but when you start getting supernatural into the fold,
Mhm.
then you have to explain it a little bit, and that's where I get into a little more trouble with the horror, because the more supernatural you get, I feel the more you don't have to explain it all, but you can't, have absolute crazy shit happening and not giving a little bit of a reason or explanation to it. So I get a little bit more bogged down when I'm doing the horror. I still enjoy it the
Yeah.
same. It's just different. And that's why, well, this year I've got the horror and then psychological thriller. My two that I'm planning for next year, one's going to be horror and the other one, yeah, a kind of combination of both. But I
Okay.
like to mix it up.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested, we've talked to authors, especially when they're dealing with more heavy like material and themes and things like that. Do you find like that you feel or like, feel heavier or any of that kind of stuff depending on what genre that you're writing, especially when you say like the historical fiction you feel like you're is more you. Do you find that like it kind of puts you in different mindsets depending on what it is that you're writing?
Yeah, for sure. Not that I turn into Mr. Hyde
Yeah.
when I'm
Or
writing the darker
what
stuff.
Stark George
Yeah,
Stark.
but, I get done writing something like Spider, wanting to write something funny,
Yeah.
but when you got another scary one to get done, you gotta jump right into the next one, but I can turn that part off as soon as I get up, and honestly, I think listening to music helps keep me grounded.
Yeah.
Like, I'm writing about this some of this stuff's horrific, but I'm listening to REM or The Killers or something like that, or the
Mhm.
Killers probably doesn't help, but, um and that keeps me grounded in real life, but, I will say I have my first historical actually, I have 3 books coming out this year.
Wow, that's amazing.
So my first historical in 7 years, it will come out in, I think, December, we don't have a date yet, but I'm really looking forward to that one. Not that that one was it's a civil rights era drama, and it has some dark undertones in
Oh,
it,
yeah.
but it was definitely refreshing writing something different. And a lot of my historicals, they have a little more humor in them. They have more feel emotions come out. They're better book club topics type things. But I very happy to have that one come out.
Yeah. Well, that kinda leads me, thematically, like, what that one's about, into my next question, about Dig, because you kinda touch on some of these themes and ideas of racism and that in Dig, and one character that really fascinates me, hopefully it's right, Mr. Passafume.
Yes.
Okay. So, he's a character that I find fascinating because on one some people may or kind of think he's fitting into, like, this trope, um, of that, like, magical black person that comes and
Right.
helps that, but I actually think that he kind of plays against that almost because you make him such a three-dimensional human being. He is
Hmm.
not perfect. He is
No.
flawed. The story around him is so interesting, and I just wanna, like, kinda think about as you were writing this character, what your thoughts were, like, and how it kind of built into that idea, that history that you gave this island that is really dark when it comes to race.
Right. I love blue bottles.
Yes.
And honestly, I wouldn't consider this a race book, but the darkness of the island all comes down to race
It
Mhm.
does,
and
right?
slavery at the time, and that was not intended when I started it. That was forget the pun here, but that was me digging into my own story
Yeah.
and figuring out where, these people are digging into their own past. Where does some of that darkness start? And a lot of it on that island started with the slave trade.
Mhm. It's hard not to if you're writing
Right.
a book
And
area,
that's
yeah.
just, that's just me being a pantser and not totally knowing where my story's gonna go. And that's where it went because I think that's where it needed to go for this one, and And I think to anchor all that, I needed somebody as strong as Blue Bottles
Mhm.
or Mr. Passafume, the guy in charge of the, honey house.
Right. Yeah, definitely, and, I think that as when readers read this book, there is a scene that this character has that is ingrained in my memory and is one of the coolest scenes, I think, in, a book in a long time and involving honey, and I thought was just really awesome, and I
What
can't
part of
even.
the book?
What's that?
What part of the book are you
Uh, when he's walking into the house, let's say.
Yes. Where
Yeah,
there's, like,
yes. Yeah.
Yes, and, like, because again, I don't wanna spoil anything for anyone, but that image and that,
My
like, whole
agent
scene,
loved that scene.
I can
it's I see it as a
I
my
can only
friend.
imagine,
Yes.
like, when you're writing this, you're like, "This is awesome." Like,
Yes.
Yeah, I sometimes you gotta like your own stuff sometimes.
Well, it's like 20 minutes of like, all right, we're just gonna and the book I mean, the way you just and I'm gonna wrap this and I'm gonna wrap this, I'm
uh-huh,
gonna tie this and I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna give you
Mhm.
that. It bam, 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 and you're so damn satisfied
yep,
that like your mouth is agape of
mhm,
what's happening.
and it's, like, a testament too because, like, there's so much emotion at the end of this book, and that couldn't have happened without you caring about these characters as much as you end up
Well, and that
doing it.
that's one thing that I really like about horror, and I think so many people, readers, especially people who like thrillers and suspense and even literary fiction, whatever. I think so many people are still scared of to read horror because they instantly think gross
Mm,
or violent, and
mhm,
it certainly can be.
right,
But I think when you have characters in horrifying situations, which to me makes it a horror novel, you really get to feel who they are and you can dig into relationships. And like you said, that there's some emotion in this one. When you have Nate coming back as a 25-year-old orphan, dealing with what his little brother did, dealing with the death of his father, some childhood things he didn't quite understand, all of it. I think that's one thing that I think I get from writing my historical tends to be more drama driven,
mhm.
is that I was able to write horror with what I think are deep emotional characters, hopefully.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, and I would totally agree, and, I wonder, as you obviously have gone back and written another historical fiction, what do you think you drew from the thrillers and horror? How do you did you when you came back to historical fiction, do you feel like there was any new tools or lenses that you had when
For
you wrote that?
sure. Like I said, I think that writing historical absolutely helped me develop characters for horror, but then going back and writing my next historical, that's the fastest paced historical I've written,
Mm,
if that makes sense. So I think
yeah,
I learned not that historicals need to be fast paced, but this historical reads more like a crime thriller. So
Yes.
it does, it does take place in the 70s and 60s, but it reads more like a thriller. And
yeah.
I think you're right. That's a interesting. Never looked at it that way.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I am very excited for this book to come out and for people to discover Crow Island and all the many glorious, nasty things that it has hidden
Yes,
for everyone.
and the
We
boo
have
hags.
yes, absolutely. So yeah, I love the idea that because you kind of wrote in the afterward acknowledgments how much sort of visiting the area and falling in love with it inspired that you wanted to set something there.
Hmm.
Just kinda wanted to for you to expand a little bit on that, like, what was it that was it the feeling there? I know you're saying, like, the blue bottles and the boo hags and all this kinda stuff. Like, when you go and visit somewhere, what does that look like for you? Are you looking like because some people, it's like, "Oh, go to South Carolina, go to the beach." And, like, there's so much more to it than that. Do you always look for that when you go to visit an area of, like, digging a little deeper? Oh god, I said dig again.
Yeah.
But
Um, I don't know. Sometimes I'll just go somewhere, and if this place inspires me to write a book about this something similar to where I am, but that I'll say Savannah did that for sure. On this one is one of my wife and I's our favorite places to go. So I wanted to write a book that takes place in somewhere kind of like a Savannah, which is why I did Crow Island and Dig.
yeah.
I have a book that I'm writing next that should come out fall of 2027 that's gonna take place on a beach. a beach town, and a hurricane and all that, and
Is that
that
a horror or thriller?
it'll be horror thriller
Man, I can't wait.
just because and this is funny, I thought of this story 15 years ago
Ooh,
about a Hurricane Alice, and that's gonna be the name of the book. That was my title, Alice,
huh?
and then that's my agent's name too.
Right.
I go, "So do you want me to change the title?" She's like, "No, I like it." Of course, titles, they'll get changed most of the time anyways, but it's fun but another thing I like to do as far as and I do it for a couple reasons, I like to make up my own towns. Like Stephen King with his Derry
The
and
Rock and
Castle
yeah,
Rock, and I do it for much the same reason, because I think it's cool.
yeah,
I don't you know, you have to do, like, 80 books like he did to have half the people in the world recognize Derry and Castle Rock, but,
yeah.
so mine are like Ransom, in Spider. My historical that's coming out is called Ransom Burning, that takes
Oh,
place in Ransom.
okay.
Sleep Tight takes place in Twisted Tree. So does my second historical. So what I've done on some of them is some of my made up towns in my historicals, I'm using to set some stories contemporary in horror. But I do it for a few reasons because I think it's fun. I like making up my own places, but also with now that I'm on a 2 book a year pace, it's faster. It's faster to make up places
Do
than
you
it
have
is.
maps of these towns and, like, set
No,
up
I
where
just
every
kind of in my head.
yeah,
And I
that's cool.
never go into such detail in a town
Uh-huh.
that I would contradict myself in another book, like saying this convenience store wasn't on that street. But as opposed to me setting a book in, my city, Louisville, which I've done, but then you have to be more accurate. And
People love finding those things.
that's part of the reason why really enjoying writing the horror and suspense because I don't have to do as much research as I did with my historicals.
Right. Now, is writing your full-time profession if you're doing 2 books a year, or do you do something in addition to this?
I write full time for the
That's nice.
last 4 or 5 years. I was a tennis pro for
I
25
remember
25 years.
what's it like to be, like, God's favorite with all this talent?
I don't well, I got out of tennis because I was like, "I'm tired of having pain every time I take a step."
I can't imagine.
Oh my
But
word.
which is good now, all that pain went away because I literally haven't played in 5 years.
Wow.
But, yeah,
Do
so
you ever
I write
do,
for a
like,
living and the books are doing pretty well, and my wife has always been for 26 years now, she's been the breadwinner, while I've done the tennis and done a lot of the Mr. Mom stuff,
love that.
but right now, I'm able to write full time with the 2 books a year, and I'm loving it. Hopefully, people will keep buying and reading them.
Yeah. And
Hey,
3 this year,
I
Yeah,
know.
I don't have
and
to
a
be rich.
re-release.
I don't have to be rich, I just wanna make enough to keep waking up and making stuff up every day.
Yeah. Hey,
Amazing.
do you think you could ever do, like,
Celebrity tennis
I was gonna
pro-am?
say a horror tennis?
I don't know, I
Or a
could, I don't
tennis
know if
book? Or
Yes.
yeah, well, I've written a tennis movie,
Okay.
which that came out in 2013. It's a rom-com, and it's an indie film, so we shot it for $230,000.
what's the name of that?
It's called Second Serve. It's a cute
Okay.
film. There's some I wish we could do a few parts of it over, but, when you're shooting on that budget but I tell you, we had you ever seen Cougar Town?
Yes.
Josh Hopkins from Cougar Town was in it.
Huh?
Let's see, Dash Mihawk from Ray Donovan.
Oh, yeah.
We had Big Bang Theory, the comic book, clerk.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah, what's his name again?
Kevin Sussman, he was in it, and then I had Kevin Monahan from Shameless. I've seen Shameless?
Alright,
I
so
can't
now
remember
we're
his
gonna be
first name.
watching that, Adam, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
absolutely.
Yeah, we're already on IMDb.
Yep.
Yeah. So Second Serve, it's 2 ND,
Yes.
not the spell if you Google the spelled out Second Serve movie,
It's like a
about
1986 movie or something.
it's about a trans tennis player in the '80s.
Okay.
That's not my movie.
Yes.
Yeah, mine's 2013. Cameron Monaghan, that's what I was thinking of.
Yes.
He's also the Joker in Gotham.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a cute movie. It's totally different than, but then what's funny is I've written about 8, 9 screenplays, and it took me 15 years to sell my first book.
Really?
Yes, and that was The White Wind Blue was the 4th book I'd written. So, 15 years of rejection, and then I write my first movie, and that gets made, which
Okay,
is
so, like, that okay. That was, like, unexpected, but okay, so it's like
You just
the
never know.
reward came a little late, yeah.
So just do
exactly.
it. Whatever the thing is,
Right.
just do it, huh?
Yeah, and it just because I made a stupid movie about tennis pros. It's a cute movie, but it's just how things work out sometimes. I wasn't even trying to be a screenwriter, and I just tried one, and it worked for that one.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but I prefer writing novels all day.
Well, you're good at it. I've loved everything that I've read from you, and we're so excited, when the next ones come out. Hopefully, we can have you back on to talk about those as well.
Absolutely. I love talk I because writing is that's one thing with tennis, I was always around people, and
Yeah.
I'm an outgoing person, I like to talk, but writing is kinda lonely. You're sitting there and you're talking to yourself basically when you're doing dialogue, and so I enjoy getting out, whether I'm doing book signings or events or podcasts, whatever, I enjoy talking about it.
Yeah, we would love to have you back, and if, will you be at StokerCon this year?
When is that? Is that 'cause I made a mental note. Thanks for reminding me of that because that's one thing I've been bad at. And it's another reason why I don't think the horror world has totally embraced me or knows about me because I haven't done that many horror things. And a lot of it comes down to, I spent most of my career writing historical fiction. I didn't know the depth of the horror. So I'm still learning about these things,
It's definitely, we would love to happily connect you with some of the like, we do the Spooktastic in the fall.
Yeah. Where's that?
It'll be in Boston this
Yeah,
year. Yeah.
with Alyssa Alessi
Yep.
and
And we know we saw you at Horror Reader Weekend
right.
with Christine.
I
Yep.
think what I like about StokerCon is you get a large mix, but I do really feel like it is
It's Woodstock for horror. It is
yes, it's
overwhelming.
like,
Yeah.
Okay.
but I think what I love about, like, Alyssa's event is you get a ton of, like, peer engagement and just experience, but then you also get, there's a lot of people, but it's like it's the Goldilocks, I think.
Okay.
So, some and then I think there's another one that's in June right now, which is the Haunted Mines that
Haunts the Readers.
yeah, okay, and that's, like, 20 minutes from us.
Mhm.
Where are you all?
We're in South Central Pennsylvania. We're, just above the Maryland line.
Yeah, like an hour north of Baltimore. I don't know if you know Lancaster,
Okay.
Hershey area. Yeah.
Yeah, so but that's I mean, I think those are some of the things where you get that right level of you can network enough to, like, introduce yourself and spend
Right.
time with both your peers and the people that are interested, but then, it's also like you're not feeling I feel like after StokerCon, I know better now that I need to take a few days off. A lot
Mhm.
of people are like, they just go up to the room and stare at the wall for a little bit and then come back to
Is it
but
it
I
is
mean,
like
we're
it's like a
going,
big
right?
serious family
It is wonderful. It is absolutely
that I
wonderful,
just
and
didn't know about. I wasn't
yeah,
ready
yeah.
for. So
I mean,
where is StalkerCon?
This year
Or
it changes, but it's
StokerCon?
in yes, like yeah, Bram Stoker, but it
Where
is
yeah, Brad, I
Pittsburgh.
gotcha.
Yeah, it is Pittsburgh this year.
Okay.
yep. So, I mean, I think what's nice is just there's usually tabling events. There's a lot of different things. I
The
don't
panels are really
The
awesome.
panels are
Yeah.
great. Yeah. And it's just, you can show up for anything and everything. And honestly, like, I mean, I went as someone who didn't know jack shit because I was only reading literary fiction at that point. And I mean, I was reading horrific literary fiction without knowing that I liked horror, so I
Mhm.
feel like aligned to what you're saying of, like, you kinda switched in, and then, I mean, the reception and it's nice because everyone just kinda enfolds you, and you make all these great relationships,
Mhm.
and I think it would be really fun
Mhm.
for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And are you planning on doing a Horror Reader Weekend again in November?
Let's see. Where was that last year?
New York. It's like outside of New York. It's in the Hudson Valley.
Yes, I will have to see.
Yeah.
That one I got stuck, I had to drive home. My plane got stranded and I never took off.
What?
That
That's
was
crazy.
quite a trip home.
I bet it was probably, like, 10, 12 hours.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
wild,
Yeah, it
man.
was a drive, but that was fun. That was a neat, event.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
does a great event.
I will have to see what my schedule looks like this year.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, because she's doing Louisiana this year, and
Yeah, and then, like, a month later, it's New York again, so
yeah, so
Wow.
But yeah, that's awesome. But hopefully, yeah, we'll see you at
I'm just
some.
saying we'd like to see you there is all I'm trying to get at is, like, I think your readers would like to see you there, and if you need some social I mean, you've got so many books, there's so much
Yes.
to pick from, and
Right.
Hmm.
that could just be so nice.
Well, I definitely wanna look at StokerCon first,
Yeah.
'cause that was on the back burner just because 'cause I'd never done it. You know, it took me a couple years of writing horror. I didn't even know the breadth of how far it reached and all this different events and all I didn't it was like, "Whoa." So I'm slowly easing into it here.
Well, I hope you go, and
Yes.
you're welcome to come back on anytime. I can't wait to read your new things, and I think that to me, this is gonna be a book that I gift to a lot of
Oh yeah.
people of
Well,
like
I
thank
will
you.
force this
I
upon them.
will.
Thank you.
Because to me, this was so, so, so fun and adventurous. It was like I felt like when I closed this book, I was like vibrating with
It's a
exhilaration,
ride. Yeah.
and I don't normally feel that way, and
Hmm.
that was so much fun.
Yep.
But I think it's one where it's horror, but I think it's a book that people who don't read horror might still like.
Absolutely. Definitely agree with that
Yeah,
for
because
sure.
it's almost a little fantasy,
Hmm.
so
Yeah, well, I like that part. It has a
Yeah.
little bit of I mean, when I'm telling you that you have a little bit of everything,
Yep.
just down to the red crow,
It's like a boil pot, right? It's like
it
that's what it is. But no, can't wait for more people to discover it as it comes out March 24th, right?
yep,
All right.
Yep,
Well, good
yep.
luck to you, and we look forward to seeing you and hopefully having you back on to talk about some more books soon.
awesome, love it.
Yep.
Thanks so
Thank
much for
you.
joining. Good night.
Right, thank you all.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.